So organizational culture, ma'am.
Organizational culture. So this is one topic which is gaining importance or prominence in the context. It has become so common. I'm not able to accommodate or adjust myself to that culture. Or maybe culture is entirely different than what I perceived. I find it difficult to accommodate. So such type of conversations are gaining popular amidst the Gen Y and Gen Z, I would say. So, but it is important for us to know a few dimensions of the significance of culture in the organization system or in the organization setting. So, what is culture? We say the Western culture, the Indian culture, the Asian culture. So, what does the word culture mean or refer to? Have we come across the term culture? What does the word culture mean or imply?
The way we interact with each other in an organization, the basic
The
set of
way we
practices,
interact with each
ethics,
other in an organization.
the
Okay.
ethics that we have, the ethics that we follow in dealing with our business.
Okay. And when we say ethics, the perspective is likely to change from individual to individual.
Madam
So,
Chennai,
As an
Pavitra has given an
organization as a
answer.
whole,
The
as an
organizational,
organization as a whole,
as
as a
an
whole,
organization as a whole.
whole,
Organization as
yeah.
a whole. That's nice. That's good. So Pavitra has answer the values and beliefs the society have. Values and beliefs the society have, the organization has. Okay. Any other
yeah,
views on culture or any other responses?
shared
Behavior and actions of employees.
Behavior and actions of employees, that would be the outcome. Okay. Shared values.
shared norms and values that differentiate one group from another.
Shared norms and values that differentiate one group from another and also one organization from the other.
From another. Exactly.
Madam, they even call it, Madam, they even call it that it is the software of the organization. I mean, software of the organization is the organization.
The DNA or the software of the organization. Very nice, very true, sir.
It could be one of the 5 P's of the organization.
It could be one of the 5 P's of the organization. Yes, it could be, like it should be. It is.
It is.
A better
Yes.
word. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. Nice. So with this broad, I think few concepts I thought we would discuss with respect to the organization culture, and then I would say like how it evolves over a period of time. Is there a need that the culture change or be accommodative to the changes that is happening in the external environment, and what would be the characteristics? So those dimensions is what I have planned the discussions for this session. So okay. So culture. So when we look at the definitions for culture, there is some commonality, some common thread, what we would be able to pick from the definitions that has been shared by various authors. So it is like a system of shared actions, values, and beliefs that develops within an organization. It doesn't develop overnight, but it develops over a period of time, and that forms basis or that lays the broad guidelines for the behavior of the employees or the members. So they all accept and agree those yes, there was some, sorry, there was some network connectivity at my connectivity issues at my end. Sorted out. Sorry for the interruption. Hope I am audible now. Thank you, Malarvili.
Yes, ma'am. Audible, ma'am.
Thank you. So, like, it is the shared actions, values, and beliefs that has developed within an organization over a period of time, and it is expected that all the members in the organization stick on or work within the broad guidelines that has been laid. So, because of this culture, we normally frame out certain norms, rules, guidelines within which all the members, I will not say all, most of the members adhere, accept, and work within those broad guidelines. And it is something which is commonly accepted by all the members. And in recent terms, we are much familiar with this corporate culture, the corporate culture of that particular organization. So how it is? So when we say the corporate culture, it is likely to vary from organization to organization. And it's most important for us to remember that no two organizational cultures are identical. Since it is the DNA, it is DNA of the organization, as you said, the software of the organization, it is the core of the organization, I would say. No two organizational cultures are likely to be identical. There would be certain similarities, but it cannot be the same. So that's the reason why when we have worked in an organization, okay, let me put it in this way. Say, how many of you have switched at least 3 jobs in your career till now?
Ma'am, I have.
You have switched. So
Yes.
in your how many year tenure of your service?
15 years.
15 years. Okay, in 15 years you have changed jobs. So when was the recent one, the last one? I would say the last one. How long it was?
I'm in the 6th year. 5 years are over.
5 years or over your 6th year. So it's almost 10 years or 9 years in an organization, and then this is your 5th year. So when you moved from that organization to this organization 5 years, 6 years ago, was it easy for you to accommodate, to adjust, to manage, or you found it difficult?
Yeah, I didn't find it very difficult, but yeah, it was a big change.
It was a big change.
It was a big change. So to adopt to a change, yes, of course, it took little time, but well, yes, because there was a different organization altogether. So there it was quite different actually. The feeling of difference was there.
That was there. So what, however, the practices that was adopted there and the practices that was adopted here, the systems, the processes, they are all likely to be different. Am I right?
Yeah, entirely different. Yes, entirely different.
Entirely different. Yes. So, so thank you for that.
Okay.
For sharing your experiences. So what happens is when it was about like when you're with the new organization, when you have to do certain thing, you would always keep on looking back. This was how I did that, and this is how I'll have to do here.
Yes,
maybe
yes,
certain
for sure.
things was easy over there, certain things were easy over here. So when it is something difficult, then the more the mind for us would switch towards the earlier one.
Yeah, maybe there was flexibility, and here there is no flexibility.
Flexibility.
Yeah, but there was flexibility, but there was stretch of timings. Here there is no flexibility, but the timings are like strict timings or limited timings. So it is just
balances either way. It balances.
Yeah, so So it's difficult to choose whether one person really wants flexibility in an organization that you come at your go and then you go at go, or you just work exactly 9 to 5, which makes a little rigid schedule in case of need. But at least you are also assured that 5 it is the end. But in the previous, it was like it can stretch.
It can stretch.
So in case of
So
need, flexibility is also preferred. But to have a normal routine, this is also good. So I'm still in a dilemma, even till
okay.
today. What is better?
Yes, that's true. See, in one way, like flexibility, you can come a little bit late and maybe you can go a little bit early, or you can come a little bit early and then leave early. That could be, or it could be the other way. So, like, it helps you to
Yes,
plan certain things on certain days, like how you want to do. But when it is rigid, maybe that flexible, that is not possible for us. But the time that we
yes,
have for ourselves, the remaining, okay, 9 to 5 is my expected time. Beyond 5, whatever it is, I can plan all this and do. So that goes the other way. So what happened
yes,
in our organization was, it was from last year. Yes. So electives, students, we gave the flexibility for students to choose electives of their choice. So finally,
yes,
it landed up in a big basket of 13 different electives. And of the
yes,
13 electives, only 3 were mutually exclusive. So we finally landed up in scheduling classes from 8 o'clock till 5:30.
yes, 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 yes.
So
So,
what happens is, so all the core, we had it between the time, and electives we had it on rotation to schedule from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and then from 4:30 to 5:30. So then we thought, like, it might not be fair for the faculty to make them stay beyond the working hours, or asking them to come too early and stay back. And so we thought, why not change the working hours itself? So if I come at 8 o'clock, I can very well leave at 3:30. If I
yes.
have a
So it's
class at 4:30 to 5:30, I can come at 10 o'clock. That is fine. And then we relaxed a bit, stating that if at all, if you have to leave a bit early because of personal works, you can very well choose to come at 8 o'clock, work, finish all your work that particular day, and then leave at 3 o'clock. So the need for taking up permissions or holidays or break, all that, it started minimizing. So
correct,
they
correct.
found, a few of the faculty found this very comfortable and convenient, and that it all found it a bit difficult to get accommodative. And then more important is the HR. So how are
Yes,
we going to keep track of your timings? I said the timings remain the same, 7.5 hours or 8 hours. I need to be in the campus when I say 9 to 4:30. Instead, it becomes 1 hour I come early and 1 hour I leave. So why not accept it? So initially there was little bit of resistance for this change. So if you
yes.
schedule my classes early morning, how will I be able to come? And evening it doesn't serve. But later, we find like that it was fine. So
Yes,
it could happen. That is one. And the other most important dimension with respect to culture and changes, the younger we are, the initial stages, say when we are less than 40 years of age, it becomes,
yeah,
and I'll say it is somewhere in the intermediate levels of our career, we would find ourselves very easy, adaptable to any new culture, to any new environment. But when it
yes,
is above 45, or when we are in our 50s, it becomes so rigid because we have been used. Say, like Dr. Chauhan, he has mentioned 17 years in the same organization. That is good. But at the 18th year, if there is a need or a necessity to switch on to other organization, he will find it very difficult to understand the culture, accommodate and manage the change. So that causes too much, that's likely to cause too much of stress within within us. And
so
I have seen my colleagues, and I have seen people who find it very difficult beyond 40 plus to accommodate to a new environment, or to a new culture. So they keep
true.
on comparing, and it gets no clue for them what it is, and they keep on
Yeah,
comparing, this was how it was, this was how it is. So, and that starts disturbing the others, also in the organization. So that is one point that we need to remember and accept it. So there we'll have to forcefully take up the change when we understand and when we realize that the change is for betterment. So, and the longer the period we stay in an organization, the more we become comfortable, used, and it's almost like a mindset that we have got, and it's very difficult to break and come out of it. So normally when we say these are the, this is about the background or the basis of the organization culture. And any organization culture, they say it has 7 characteristics. So the first is the innovation and risk taking. To what extent members think or innovative with respect to developing their systems or practices, or they willing to take risk. And innovation, two colleges, Malarvili, I could not get yours. Two colleges, one is arts and the other one is polytechnic college. Okay, this is your tenure of experience that you had, and an arts college is entirely different from the one in a polytechnic. And if you say if you belong to an arts college and when you come into a technical institution, that becomes entirely different. For a standalone, it becomes entirely different. It's very true. And similarly, if you look at
difficult to
yes, Malarvili?
it's very difficult to manage the teenage. It is very difficult to manage the teenage students, ma'am, compared to arts and science.
Very challenging. Very challenging. And ours is exclusively for women. So parents have been expecting us to be their children's second parents. Take care of them. So they say one simple thing, ma'am, it's all, we trust you. With that, we are leaving our daughters. Please take care of them as your daughters. We cannot be behind them policing, checking what they can do, what they are doing it. So
the students
are, yes, Malarvili,
also don't want us like that, ma'am.
Exactly. They want to be
students
treated as adults.
To like us. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They are in college. Don't treat like as a school students.
As a school students, very correctly mentioned. And they will tell, we know. Please don't advise. Whatever we say, even for out of our experiences that we have gained over the years, at times it goes beyond their heads. So that also is likely to happen. So on risk taking. So risk taking is trying out new things. It might succeed or it might be a failure, but yet are we open for that? And attention to detail. So minute detail. So it's again a personality trait of an individual. Certain people, they cannot be a person of detail. They will not be able to go through, or it's very difficult for them to do some work or prepare a document without any mistakes. It's bound to happen because they are of that. They will not. It will not catch their eyes. But there are another extreme where they look for even the minute details of comma, full stop, alignment, the formatting, the font size, everything. So, and when that is one end, and the other end is if we give them the broad outline, they will never be convinced. They want to know the complete details. The action plan, we call it as what you're going to do, when you're going to do, how you're going to do, what is likely to be the end result. Unless we discuss or we give them that clarity, they fail to understand by just looking at the broader picture. So few, they just look at the broader picture and they say, okay, these broad guidelines are okay, but ensure that this is the end result I would like to have. So, but the attention to detail or even the minute detail is one main characteristic which characteristics of an organization culture. And then outcome orientation, whatever we do, what is the end result that really matters at the end of the day or the month or the year. And people orientation, to what extent we care for people. We care for people. We look at, we are empathetic. Is it empathetic? Do we have concern for people? So this morning I was just watching a small video. It was a 2-minute video, but it was really interesting. So this point, people orientation, team orientation, these two really is what the youngsters or people of this generation look at. And the video is just like this. So it's about a HR who's trying to talk to people to identify what will make employees stay in the organization. What is that I need to do to retain my employees? So the answer was very beautiful. What an employee gave. When the HR had that question, the employee gave a very beautiful answer. Any guesses of what could be the answer? Any guess?
Madam, normally they say that people join for the company and leave for managers.
Leave for managers. Okay, I have a bad boss, so I am leaving. Okay, good. Yes, sir. Very well taken point. I wish I would work for the organization, but because of my boss is what I leave. Salary hike, okay? Salary. Working environment, they may say the culture is not good. Could be other dimension. Repo. Reputation, does it mean? This rapport, the rapport that they have, the collegiality that they have. So, but this answer was different. So he started comparing 3 generations. So my grandparents, they worked in an organization lifelong and they have provided the economic stability for us. And then my parents have given me all the basic necessities. Everything was taken care by my grandparents. Enough of the economic stability they have provided. So my parents have given me required luxury that is needed. Relationship, okay. The required luxury that is needed. So now all my basic necessities are taken care. I lead my standard of living is all stabilized. So what I look for is people orientation in the organization. To what extent I am given importance, the socialization, the opportunity for individual growth and development, the job which matches my expectations, which fulfills my desires. This is what I look for. So that is the expectation, because it's not that they need to start from the scratch. Someone, it's like how we normally say is, your grandparents started from zero, or your parents started from zero. It is not necessary for you to start from zero. You will start at 5, 10 or 15, whatever be the level. And we are very particular that our children should have a better standard of living than what we are having. So if we are at 5, for our children, we would like to have them begin at 10. So when all these things are taken care by someone else, their requirements, their need, their expectations are more towards self. What is satisfying for them, what they find is satisfying for them, what they find is rewarding for them is what they are likely to pursue. My dream job, as they say, I have the fulfillment what I was looking for. So that becomes the that's what they say is the expectation of this generation, and that we will have to accept it and see how do we fuel them. Team orientation, aggressiveness and stability, that becomes more important. And when we look at the organization culture, the shared assumptions, the shared values, and then all this together over a period of time is what we say it is the observable culture. And when we look at certain organizations or certain institutions, it becomes very evident of what their DNA or what their culture is. So as far as our institution is concerned, ours is Aditi Devo Bhava, or I was to say, we would like to treat our guests, whoever be that, who visit our campus, to the best. Hospitality is our core. Hospitality becomes our core. And then apart from that, it is providing education to the empowerment of women. So, and our logo is, a tagline is educate to empower. We believe that empowerment of women, can happen through education that we provide to the girl child. And that's the reason, and this is the campus where we are working now, or this PSGR Krishnamal College for Women was the first institution that was started. It started first with the school, the primary, the secondary school, and then later we moved to college. And so the primary core of this campus remains the same. Come what may, as far as education being concerned, this campus, we will never ever go for co-education. It will be only for women. And maybe later when we felt education becomes the core, we also have schools which cater to both the gender, the boys and the girls. 2 more schools we have. But the primary campus, those are secondary campuses. The primary campus where we first started this with the motto of educate to empower, we still stick on to the core. We will not change that. So that is our DNA. So like that, each institution will have. And then, do organizations have uniform culture? So no, the culture doesn't tend to remain the same, or is it uniform? Certain part of it, we call it as a dominant culture, which is very, very expressive, and majority of the members follow it. And you will also have a number of subcultures. So small group of people or small departments, designations. If an organization is located across the world, then in each of the geographical setting, depending upon what suits that particular region, is what they tend to have that culture. And within an organization itself, across departments, we are likely to have differences. And core values. So these are the primary or the dominant values that will be accepted throughout the organization. But there would be small others which tend to confine within small departments or small geographical regions. And a very strong culture. That is the core. And it is intensely held and widely shared across all the members. So these are the 4 things that we'll have to remember that. One is core value, the dominant culture which is accepted and shared by majority of the members, the core and the strong, that becomes the DNA, and everywhere we will also have small subcultures, the mini cultures within an organization, which could be a little bit deviant from the I would not say it's a core, or they will have their own norms, but overarching, it will fit into the core, dominant and the strong culture. So we give them little flexibility, I would say, little flexibility with respect to the operations, the systems and process, but within the broad framework within which they tend to operate. And subculture. So it is a small group of individuals who will have a unique pattern of values and philosophy, but it is not inconsistent with the organization's dominant values. So small variations, as I said, but within the broad framework or boundaries that has been set. Say, for example, since ours is exclusively for women and all the faculty also happen to be women or supposed to be women, but Dr. Paramanandam, no, first it was Professor Balasubramaniam who joined or who took charge as the director, and he was the one who recruited Dr. Paramanandam and then a few more of the men. So we thought that MBA is different. We need not have the similar kind of approach that the arts college has, because it is a professional degree, and so because of the nature of the responsibilities that we have, we thought it is okay if we have few men as faculty, and that's how we have now 5 men in our B school. And then the counterculture. So the counterculture is they explicitly object or reject the broad the culture that is prevailing in the organization. They, in other words, to say they don't comply to the culture of the organization. So what happens when we have this subculture and this counterculture is, each one of them will start pursuing according to their own self-interest, vested interest. Power and politics will play in this, which at times might become detrimental to the culture of the organization. When we allow people to pursue their self-interests, vested interests, power and politics, few people are power hungry. The moment we allow that to happen, it is likely to have a deep or a strong effect on the organizational culture, and it will say, when he is doing, why not me? When he is not questioned, then I believe I will not be questioned. When he has not given a response, do you think I should give a response? Certainly not. So such changes, when we allow it to happen over a period of time, it becomes very difficult to manage, to control, and it might lead to affecting the basic DNA of the organization, or what we call it as the core. So, and when this will happen is when we have not given a proper orientation to the newcomers, to the people who are newly joining. When we have failed to make them understand what is our core, what is the main, what is the dominant culture. When we have failed to make them understand and realize, then such things are likely to happen. And if you see over a period of time, say like when it goes across years, the core purpose with what it was started, what was the core purpose of the business, everything might fade off, and it would be a new purpose or an objective depending upon who leads that particular organization or the group. And embracing natural divisions from the larger culture may lead to difficulty in international operations. Now almost all the organizations are going global, and including educational institutions. In such cases,
Madam,
need to have a little bit of flexibility.
Madam,
Yes.
can you give one example of strong culture and dominant culture? I mean, how it is either overlapping or it's same.
A strong culture and a dominant culture.
Example. I mean, in a real sense, how does it? Any specific example for this is the strong culture, this is the dominant culture.
See, from the strong culture is what your dominant culture will evolve. So the strong culture, it is based on the core values of the organization. Say, for example, Tata Group. So what do you think is their core value or the core culture?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, madam, can it be like that? Say when we are talking about dominant culture, Here comes the concept of acculturation. Say, I am in of one culture, another person is of another culture. Due to globalization, we are exposed to multiple cultures. Now, at this point of time in global arena, so Western culture is more dominating. So when I am talking about a dominant culture, that is that Western culture towards which I am trying to go. So this is one perspective. And now when I am going for a strong culture, I am going for a strong culture. Suppose I am in a cultural minority, still my cultural values and ethics are so high that I am not at all ready to go to that dominant culture, or rather you can say it is some sorts of separation or marginalization in the voice of Hofstede and so. So that is in the context of our strong culture.
Yes, sir. So when it goes to globalization, as well as when we have multiple businesses, this is likely to happen. Say the same thing. That's why I took the example of Tata Group. So for Tata Group, the core is integrity.
Yes.
One, and the other is to what extent it is development of the community or the society.
True. Very
Development of the community or the society, that still remains. And so
Yes.
it was only when Ratan Tata took charge, apart from that, it was more into employment is what they were catering to. So employability, providing more of employment. So it was more into iron and steel, little bit iron and steel was their core, and maybe other allied, the hotel business, all those was into. But it was only when Ratan Tata decided that the entire world is going towards information technology related and allied businesses, why not Tata also get into that? So they went into that, but the purpose with which what they were doing, it remained the same. It remains the same in all the business units. But when it comes to information technology, IT and ITES services, as you rightly mentioned, it becomes pan global. And when it becomes pan global, certain practices or has to be modified or brought into or accepted such that the operations are not affected and the growth of the organization is not affected. So in such cases, what is that they have had for the TCS, how it is named as, it need not necessarily fit into what they have for Tata Motors.
Yes.
Or what they have for ITC.
Agree.
So, but the core will remain the same, but a few of these practices or the shared values, that is likely to be a little bit different, and for that setup, it holds good, but it need not necessarily hold good for all the other SBUs that they have. It is accepted by all the members. So even here, say the iron and steel, the Tata Motors or the ITC group of hotels, they understand ITES is different and this is different, and that is how it is practiced for them. So now if you look at with respect to the reward system that they have, with respect to the pay packages, they tend to little bit look into to be in par with the global levels. And the another beautiful case with respect to this Tata group is the iron and steel company which they acquired in Europe when they decided, when this Cyrus Mistry decided to sell it off. You remember that incident which happened? When they decided to sell it off, it was against the core values of the industry. So when you bought that company in Europe. It was a promise that you made to all the employees, their families, that we would take care of you. Just because it was making loss, you cannot push it away
Yes.
from your pocket.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But at the same time, allowing to go for continuous losses is not acceptable, which has to be set right.
When even same thing had happened when Tata Group acquired Title. Title was the highest beverages makers in the UK, which was acquired
Yes.
by and then it is converted into TGBL, Tata Global
Yes.
Beverages Limited.
Limited, yes. So when it goes beyond that, that is accept. But maybe even now with change in with the new CEO, chairman, CEO, but yet they tend to stick on to the culture. The strong culture remains the same, but with respect to the changes that is happening in the environment, few changes they accommodate or they bring in. So that the organization survives, it goes, it grows, it's able to. But what is the core purpose? The vision and mission remains the same. But the process, how they are working towards achieving the mission and vision, that is likely to have a change. Hope I have answered your question, sir. And the culture, for each of the culture, we have specific rules and roles. So the rules are the various types of actions that are appropriate, which normally we call it as the code of conduct. We normally say code of conduct we have, which tells what is the do's and what are the don'ts. The do's are acceptable. For don'ts, what would be the penalty that has to be faced? When the don'ts are when we do those don'ts. And then roles. So where do each and every individual member in the organization stand in that social system? What is that they are expected to do? That would be clearly laid down. And then the strong corporate culture. So a shared understanding of what the firm stands for, and it's what they carry. Say for that, I would really love to quote the example of TVS Group. So TVS Group, as soon as the Venu Srinivasan, he enters his office every single day. Maybe when he enters his office, he may come in a coat and suit. But the moment he enters the office, he reaches his room, he has a set of uniform which is being worn by all the members in that organization. As long as he is within the organization 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever be the timings, he wears only that. So it's an indication that I am one among you. I am a boss, it is okay. But that is beyond. But within this, I am also one among you. So that is one way by which they explicitly demonstrate the culture that is prevailing in the organization. And maybe all the meetings that happens within the campus, that's how he takes part. But maybe those which are outside, he goes with his other attire. And then they conserve for individuals over rules, policies, procedures, and adherence to job duties. Little bit of flexibility, leniency, variation is always allowed. There is no strict rules. Like we say, Hitlerian command need not necessarily be followed. So a recognition of heroes whose actions illustrate the company's shared philosophy and concerns. Whoever has contributed, pointed out a recognition for them in what way they have contributed, how it has helped the organization. That recognition, respect, they have, they provide that. And the rituals, the ceremony is important to all the members to bring a common identity. Like in few of the institutions, they always believe that before starting any event, they begin with the prayer song. That's a part of the strong culture, and they decide this is the prayer song that should be played. Such practices do you have in the institutions where you are working?
No, no, madam, no.
No. But in few institutions, they insist this is how it has to be carried out. This is how it has to start, this is how it has to end, and this is how it will go for years. And we have one organization in Coimbatore, Sharp Industries, where they are making this electrodes, and they also manufacture submersible pumps and motors. So there, what they do is, it's like a ritual or a ceremony, you can have it. Every day morning, 8 o'clock, they have a small meeting where the managing director, she attends, and she addresses all the employees with some a small topic, a motivation talk for about 5 to 6 minutes, or maybe 3 to 4 minutes, depending upon little bit of morning exercises, meeting, greeting everyone, and then going to their work. Every day meeting everyone, every day meeting all the employees before they go to their work. So that it has been happening over the years. Mohana Sundari madam, she is practicing it. Wherever she goes, 8 o'clock, she will be in her campus to address all her employees if she is in town. And then the informal rules and expectations, what they should know. Certain things are formal is known, but there are certain things which are also informal, which also it's not laid down, but it is transparent. And share information and ideas, and more important is for us to understand that there will always be an influence of the national culture. So that has to be taken into account, and that's why when we go global, broad guidelines is what is laid, but otherwise what fits to that particular country, that particular geographical region, that is how it is a bit modified. Say, for example, Indians, let me say, we are fond of sweets. So any occasion, we celebrate it. Happy occasions, we celebrate it with sweets. So if you look at the Kit Kat or the dairy milk that is manufactured and sold in India, the content of sweet is a little bit high when compared to the chocolates that is manufactured outside India. Have you ever noticed or looked into that? It's just a chocolate, but it is customizing according to the requirements. And there was also an ad, share sweets and celebrate, for dairy milk. Against the seeds, for all occasions, we share sweets to celebrate the happiness. Why should it be a traditional sweets like a laddu or jalebi? Why can't it be dairy milk? So that becomes the point. So how are we to manage organizational?
Madam,
yes, sir.
Madam, one experience I'll tell you, like in Indian culture, like we keep God, goddess, prayer, everything in either in office or even if in academic institution. Once I had been abroad in Johnson & Johnson office, they have a strict reason that you can't really pray there or worship or keep any God, goddess photo. When I asked it so to one of my friends, they said it's a workplace. It's not a worship place. If you want to do worship, you can go to temple or whatever things you like. But there they are not allowed to paste even if any God, goddess photo or doing such kind of things. So that's what I found, a very different kind of atmosphere, which I felt personally it is genuine in some case.
Genuine, it's 100% genuine, because you will have people who are working there who come from different cultures and they may have different gods and goddesses. So when I it is to have a stand that this is how within the campus you are expected to be. Whatever
Correct, but
it is, let it be outside and not here within the campus.
Exactly. But in here in academic institutions, they put temples inside.
Yes.
I've seen. So I hope those are things they don't entertain there.
They don't entertain here, but here, unless that is not there, people will not accept. That's our
Correct.
culture. That's our
Absolutely.
culture.
Even if in our academic institute, like one subculture, one mechanical engineering department, they do 5 minutes yoga, but which all across we don't do. I mean,
We don't.
yeah. So that is there. They have decided in their department, so they are doing it.
That becomes a subculture.
Exactly.
That becomes a subculture because they believe that really gives them a positive vibration. It's something good for them. It keeps them going throughout the day. So I do that, and all the members, they comply to that. So if we find that to be good, others also can follow it. There is nothing wrong. And over a period, that will become a dominant culture, and then that will become a core.
Exactly.
So how are we going to manage this corporate culture? So these shared values and common assumptions, it has to be shared with all the members directly. It has to be communicated. And then we can use organization development techniques, which I will be discussing with you shortly, to communicate or to follow this, I would say. And then have a well-developed management philosophy, lessons, consistency. And organization culture is what we have something called high performance organizations. So high performance organizations, the concept is almost like now 25 years old, really, high performance organizations. So what these organizations do is they try to identify what are the systems, practices, the culture, the values which has helped them to do or to perform far better when compared to their competitors, which has helped them to gain a competitive edge. And it is more of having self-directed work teams, small cultures, dominant cultures, but each one of them would be oriented towards achieving excellence. So achievement, quality, customer orientation, these becomes their core. Meeting all their stakeholders. And when we have a high performance organization, normally we say in organization culture, it's the other way. When you look at it percolates from the top management to the bottom. But in a high performance organization, the top managers will only give the broad purpose or the guidelines or the direction. And then it is the team leaders, the managers, the supporting staff, the workers with whom they reach the customers or the clients who become the ultimate beneficiaries. So it becomes more like a bottom-up approach in a high-performance organization. And commitment is for total quality management, continuous improvement, and then customer satisfaction becomes their key, irrespective of whatever be the business they are into. Meeting the customer needs. Hello. So any task that you take up, you will be able to do it at the right time, first time, perfectly, you would say. And continuous improvement, Kaizen. So whatever we do, we just look at two things. Is it necessary to do this? If so, can we improve it? So continuous improvement becomes the key, and where all, even it could be small things, but they seek to improve it, especially in the systems and the processes. So it becomes a continuous process. All Japanese philosophies with respect to this TQM, they have evolved only from Japan, and that is their DNA. For them, again, when we look at Japanese, they are good in miniaturization. Anything they will be able to make it to the smallest one, and quality is very key for them. And then in high performance organizations, human capital, like normally we in any organization, they look for money, materials, land, or the assets that we have. But equally important is the human capital. That's what the GE he said. So take all my resources, just leave my people, I'll be able to build GE again. So their DNA or their core is people and knowledge workers. So who we can call them as talented workers, the talent pool, who create value for the organization, who are the differentiators for the organization. The intellectual capital, when it comes to intellectual capital, it comes from all dimensions, from all the, I would say, from all the functional areas of the organization, including HR. Say, and intellectual capital is one topic of research that is being pursued now. It's very, very important, a very hot topic, but it's a bit, I would say, difficult to arrive at what are all the contributors of intellectual capital in an organization. How am I going to measure that? And how does this intellectual capital will have an effect on will have an impact on the outcome of the organization, be it on their turnover, the profit, or the revenue, or the market share, or market capitalization, what it is. And one of my colleagues, she has been working on this, a PhD. And empowerment, empowering people, allow people to use their talents and knowledge to make decisions that affect their work, but at the same time ensure that there is growth, personal growth, as well as professional growth, and also organizational growth. You give them the autonomy to do that. Social capital, how do they maintain social relationships within the organization at the workplace? And learning organization is very, very important in the context of high performance organization, and also to have a strong organizational culture. Say like it should be open to accommodate to the changes that is happening. And few things, this is, at times culture can also become, culture is an asset for an organization, but in 4 scenarios it can also become a liability. So when the company is valued for itself and not for the goods or services that is being provided, and people look at only the company but not looking at the what is that they are offering for the community, that is one. And when people are resistant to change, when they are not aligned to what are the changes that is happening within the organization, and when we have diversity, when we have closely held organizations, they don't open it up. They say when we take in such people, it might affect the organizational culture. So they would expect you to confirm, especially in the Middle East. You can very well see, in other words, it's not correct to say, but in countries where Muslims are the dominant, they have a very strong culture, and they are not so open to change and mergers and acquisitions. So because of culture, there are a number of mergers and acquisitions which has failed. Say the Daimler-Benz merger, they called it off after 5 years because they found it did not work for them. And so each one decided that they will work in their own way. But Reebok and Nike, they are very, very happily married to each other. So the culture, it normally stems from the founders, and then from the top level, it percolates within each and every employee in the organization. And more important is the founder, they act as role models. That's very, very important. They practice what they preach. And how to keep the culture alive is when we are recruiting new people, taking care, due care, that they will fit into. But at times, as we find it very difficult when we might miss in assessments. And then through the words, behaviors of the top management and socialization, we call it as the orientation or the socialization, like how especially in IT companies, in software companies, induction, they call it as, they give it for 3 months or 6 months, so that they tend to understand what is expected, what is that they need to do. Similarly, for any new entrant in an organization, if we give them a proper orientation with respect to all the different facets, it helps them to easily understand and set into the accommodate themselves into the culture. So that's very, very important. And then how do they learn? From the stories, the rituals, the materials, and the language or the jargons that are being put up in the organization. A positive organizational culture is what it focuses on building on the employees' strengths, focusing more on rewards than being punishing them. So when will something go wrong? When what has to be done is not mentioned, right? Is what things will go wrong. So that is, we have failed in our part for not having provide them sufficient orientation or guiding them with what they are expected to do and how they will have to do. So we have to take the accountability for that. And then also helping employees learn and grow in their jobs and careers. That's what we say. There need to be organizational development and growth, but at the same time there should be enough opportunities for the employee also to grow and develop. So, and workplace spirituality is something which is gaining importance, because it helps to balance the stress and the pressure that is experienced at the workplace. And that's why they have sessions like yoga or meeting time to bring your family to the organization and see and make them understand what is the place where their spouse, the parents are working in, so that they understand what is the job demands. And so, and more important is now, like as we discussed yesterday, the advent of technology, we are now expected to be 24/7. And so there is it becomes very difficult to differentiate a personal life from a professional life. At office also, at times we'll end up doing personal work. At home also, we'll end up doing the professional work, not the personal work. So it's almost like merged one on top of the other. But there needs to be a line of demarcation. So such providing opportunities or helping them do that will really make their work and their life more meaningful. And work meaningfulness is something is very important. At the end of the day, we need to derive satisfaction that whatever we have done, it has served the purpose. We have a tangible outcome. It has benefited so and so. It is being appreciated. Adequate rewards are there. Only then we will see meaningfulness in our work. When we don't find meaningfulness in our work, how much ever we do it, it goes heavy. So work meaningfulness and spirituality at workplace also, they call it as, that's gaining importance. And a lot of research studies are also being undertaken in that context. So these are the few points I thought I would discuss with you. Oh, sorry, we are just left with 20 minutes. Shall we now discuss the 4 questions that we had for the case? So any clarifications or any discussions relating to what we discussed?
Yes, madam. Yes. You mean to say questions from that case study?
Yes, yes. No, are there any questions with respect to the topic that we discussed? So that if there is something, few questions we will address and then we will go ahead with the case study. So participants, is there anything that I need to clarify or you seek clarification with respect to the topic that we discussed now?
Just madam, it's not a clarification, but then rather nowadays these academic institutions, they are treating their students as customers. I mean, this is, I'll call it that, corporatization to the academics. How do you feel this culture will be a long-term beneficial, or it is actually, kind of a more of giving corporate touch to the academics? I mean, sometimes I get confused because I feel that yes, it is good, because when we feel as a customer, we try to give a service, and or rather as a stakeholder, we give the best service. But at the same time, it becomes like in corporates, they are the employees, but in the students, they are not the employees. They have come to learn something. So how do you feel this, cross culture, cross identification, whether it is a good sign for future or it's a, let's say.
So like it is to, maybe I'll put it this way. So educational institution, do we call it as profit or not for profit organizations?
Personally, they do it under a trust, but then bottom line is that yes, it is into the profiteering, edupreneurs.
Yes. So though the broad overarching concept is non-profit, as you rightly said, most of it is under a trust. So operationalizing, it becomes easy. So that's the reason why it normally comes under trust. So it could be like a non-profit organization. But even if it is a non-profit organization, strictly for its sustainability and survival, it needs to make little amount of profit. The profit, how we make it, it has to be in the right way. That is one part. And the other is, it is almost like the expectations from the parents and from the students are also on the rise. When that institution is providing, why not this institution? And from the employer, the other stakeholder, the employer, we want industry ready. So the moment they observe, they expect them to do the job. But that becomes very difficult unless or otherwise the industry is willing to come along and work with the academia, giving more opportunity for students to take up internships, giving them live projects, so that in that process they become industry ready. But when we approach them for this, they would say, no, these students, they come and disturb our day-to-day routine. It affects our productivity. All our information possibility is likely to get leaked. So it's all very confidential. We will not be able to share. So when we're not able to give them that exposure, how can we make them industry ready? That becomes one. And the other is like students expect.
Correct.
Say students
Right.
For them, they are not ready to put in the efforts to realize it. So just like how at home they get everything without before asking their parents, they also expect the educational institutions to spoon feed or to support them, to treat them at that level. This is what I will do, but yet I want a degree. And thanks to autonomous institutions. But still most of the autonomous institutions, they have taken a very strong stand. unless you deserve, what you deserve is what you will get. If you have not fared well, you will get an F. You will get an F. So that is where that becomes the core of that particular organization. That will be the core. I will not become a party to all of these, but I will provide what I want to do. I will do it in the in the way which I feel is appropriate, and I will not change for anyone. And there are few organizations who will say, come what may, I will not give you bribe. I will not bribe anyone. Let it take time. It is fine. And so, like, it goes either ways. It goes either way. But still, I feel that, say, the classic example is we have this SSN institutions in Chennai. Anyone from Chennai here? Any of the participants? It's run by
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So I think all of us would be familiar with them. So they have like about 15% of the seats which they fill. It's the management quota, but still all the 15% of the seats they conduct entrance test and they give only by merit, no capitation.
Yes, yes.
So it all depends on the founders' values that they have. And our institution, we right from the day we have started, we never have the concept of capitation. It's only through merit. If you are deserving, you will get. Else no. So, and the demands, though they are increasing, become so difficult to satisfy all the demands. So what is right according to us, what is that we can do is what we will be able to do. We will never become a party to satisfy the expectations of all the stakeholders. Then our DNA, our core, what we stand for, we are likely to miss it over a period. Sometimes it vanishes, and that I think is not right. So what is your mission? What is the basic founding principle you are? Come what may, we will speak on. But we would also be accommodative to the changes that is happening. We will accept, understand, appreciate those and bring in those changes within our institution. That's how it has to be. And this is my personal view. I am not sure if I have given you the right answer, sir.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Shall we now look up the cases that we have for the questions that we had for discussion?
Yeah, madam. Absolutely.
So what were the questions that we had? So can I request one of the participants to present the synopsis of the case? What this case is all about? For the benefit of the others who have not gone through the case.
This case is about an high attrition rate in an organization, a software company. Yeah,
Yes.
in a software company, which is a growing organization. And they try to find out, they're trying to analyze what is the reason behind this high attrition rate. And they find out that most of the people are leaving because they get a good opportunity in other organizations. They have a pay, okay, good pay. One of the reason is a good pay. Okay, but people are not in the next level or not ready to open up. Okay, and they try to give another perspective, that is to have a scheme where the employees are allowed to speak up or discuss their problems. Okay, with the next level of the senior persons, and to get it solved. Okay, and to
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for that. Quickly, we will go through the 4 questions that we had. So when we say what is the organization, how would you describe the organization culture? What words come to your mind when we say what is the culture at Parivar?
Okay, who thinks he is belonging to his family or able to speak up with that particular higher grade.
Yes,
Okay, so
family.
it is a dilemma. Okay, yeah, but they are not able to decide. Okay, they don't have any other better idea. That is how it gets over. Okay, what is the other way of solving this particular problem? Okay, people are not opening up also, and those who are opening up, those points are not accepted. Uh, in this particular scenario, whether it is possible to run an organization like a family, and that is a big question.
It's a big question. Okay. So that's nice.
Madam, as I understand,
Yes.
the head of operation Kumar Chandra,
Hmm.
actually, before when this Indira Pandit as a VPHR is presenting, and that culture, what they are saying, it is all in pen and paper. It's but then there is no open and transparent culture. All is documented. They say that we are doing exit interview. We have a kind of that attrition rate is very high. All these things, they are doing meetings and all these things, but there is a gap between the real workforce and this top boss. I mean, there I find there is a gap.
There is
So,
a
and
gap.
on top of it,
Yes, sir.
the CEO Sudhir Gupta, he and Indira Pandit, probably they want to hand in gloves. I mean, I look at it in this way, hand in gloves. So they're keeping a lot of things in a just through meetings, just through doing exit interview, like from Amal, or even if that young girl Nisha presented in their meeting. So they just wanted to justify it's a global phenomenon. So the attrition rate is getting high. So we have to accept it. And also they're comparing with all big sort of organizations. In jokingly, even if Kumar said, oh, fine, then we are going to the second tier company. Actually, they are not into the second tier company. They're trying to justify. I mean, I look at it this way.
This way. So even yesterday I just missed mentioning this. I would recommend you all to read 2 books. One is How the Mighty Fall. The name of the book is How the Mighty Fall.
Okay.
How the Mighty Fall. I'll put it in the chat box.
Okay.
How the Mighty Fall by Jim Collins. And the next book is Built to Last.
Built to Last, yes, I have read it.
So these are 2 classical books which will help us to understand where leaders miss, where they fail, and what are the core, the DNA of the organization which helps them to survive across tough times, so that they come across all those. So what becomes the role of a leader and how he navigates through. So beautiful books. If you're able to get a copy of the ebook, it's fine. If not, at least the review, the 10-page reviews would be very well available.
Yeah.
So when you read
Madam.
that, it will really help you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is another similar kind. It is In Search of Excellence.
In Search of Excellence.
Yeah, it is by Peter and Waterman, Tom Peter
Yes.
and Waterman. That is also an excellent book in this area.
Yes, sir. Okay, so like, what do you think? What words come to your mind if you have to describe the culture at Parivar? How would you describe that, sir? Say we started with a family. caring, entrepreneurial, and
Ma'am,
how
excuse
does
me.
this? Yes,
Excuse
yes.
me, ma'am. As far as the scenario is considered, what you have given yesterday, so it is found that they give importance for the all the employees who are working there,
Yes.
and yes, humanity is being given importance.
Importance. Yes.
But
Empathy.
empathy is given importance rather about their commercial. What is a commercial need? It is not going to take a major important role. But one thing
True.
I was doubting about the scenario. So the person CEO, he is a very charismatic one, but he doesn't find that when compared to other companies, he should be giving that amount of remuneration for persons who are good working and all. So why it is not being stated in that scenario? So he is a very eligible, and he has developed his company to a huge level. He has overcome the bankruptcy. He has made it very profitable, and he is in the success line. But there is no importance. I don't know whether I'm right or not. Just I wanted to clarify, ma'am.
Why it has not been focused on the remuneration part or the salary that is being given.
Yeah.
Right.
So actually that was discussed in the last portion of the story, what was narrated. So that was an issue which was going to be issue, and because of that only the person who was having the exit interview, he had a problem with that point only. So why it is not being considered? Just I wanted to clarify, ma'am.
Clarify. Actually, I don't, honestly to say, I don't have an answer for that, because the context in which this case has been written by the author is to discuss about the culture of the organization, and then in that culture, when it becomes, when you, over a period, when we fail to understand and accommodate ourselves, how detrimental it will be for the organization. So that is the context in which the author has written this case for discussion.
Okay.
So,
Madam, hello.
Yes, yes, sir.
Madam, there is also a trust deficit. I'll tell you, while taking the exit interview of that Amal, when Indira was taking the exit interview, at the end, when it is over, the supervisor of Amal comes and says that this guy is an outlier. I mean, this Amal is an outlier. So there is a, the exit interview is being taken by Indira, VP, but then his supervisor is actually not trusting his own subordinate. So, he wants to justify that this guy is a outlier. But then, I mean, I doubt, but then bottom line is that there is a trust deficit.
Trust deficiency, that is one way. And the other is, it could also happen that in the exit interview, and if there were some rough instances, the subordinate is likely to disclose all those, which is likely to have an impact on him.
True, but then it's like that we call it one skip exit interview. His exit interview should have been done in I mean, after some questions, it should have been done in front of his supervisor, so that the transparent things could have been emerged.
No. Exit interview, normally it will be done only by the HR, so that they try to get the real reasons, what it is, to identify scope for improvement. But again, I tell you, to what extent can we rely on the information that is provided in the exit interview is a question mark.
Yes.
Because
Yeah, I
I'll
agree.
tell you the reason why. I'll tell you the reason why. Because if you are conducting an exit interview for me, so what are the deficits in the organization? What all didn't work? If I'm pointing it out for me, it is something against the HR. And so when I go and join elsewhere, they may ask you to give me a letter of recommendation or a referral, or when they what do you call it as reference when they seek for, you will never give a good vouch on me.
True, true.
And
Yeah.
fear will always be there. So though they take exit interviews, to what extent is the information shared during the exit interview true? That is questionable. And whatever, if it's being shared, is it get confidential? That becomes another big question mark.
Correct, but then exit interview is done basically for the improvement of the organization. I mean, how the employees feel when they. But then the supervisor comes just after the exit interview. Supervisor tells that this guy is an outlier. So I mean, so
It doesn't serve the
this.
purpose. It doesn't serve
Yes,
the
exactly.
purpose of having the exit interview. And in many organizations, it has just become a ritual. Okay, you're leaving, so you'll have to go through an exit interview. That's it. But to what extent they really take it and build it, those points within the organization is, I don't have any thing to mention on that. I don't have supporting arguments to mention on that.
No, my concern was that the VP HR that Indira should have asked to the supervisor that you are coming and all of a sudden to escape your things, you are saying he is an outlier.
So such things should have.
Why didn't you disclose this earlier?
We should not be permitted, or even it has happened, it has to be condemned.
Correct, sir. Correct, madam. Did you ask anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
So any other points that you would like to share on this case?
The last question was fascinating for me. The last question, like, what did this Pandit said to Gupta? So there actually I find there is a, I mean, I'll not say it any other relations, but then there is a hand in gloves kind of things, because this Pandit says to, we are meeting on Friday. Then she says yes. Then say, you had something for me. It means CEO and the VP HR, they actually try to, manipulate things. I mean, I can think in that way.
Yes, it will always happen. It will always happen. There is always sufficient scope for that. And it has to be accepted. It has to be accepted. So all instances being fair, transparent, all those, it could be in paper, but not in reality.
True.
It could be in paper, but not in reality. So and normally when we find that mistake is on that other end, we are very, we don't accept it so easily. They fail to accept it, and that becomes the starting point for the decline for it.
Yes.
Friends, any other points? Because I have taken almost 6 minutes of your lunchtime, and that's not fair. Maybe tomorrow we will discuss a little more on this along with the next case. I'll plan for maybe 20 minutes. I'll plan my session, and then we will have few more discussions on this. Today also I'll be sharing a case with you and few questions which we